What if I told you that a single heated moment on Family Feud could bring Steve Harvey to the point of walking off the set entirely? Welcome to Harvey's Highlights, where we dive into the most unforgettable, jaw-dropping moments from television's most iconic game shows. Make sure to hit that subscribe button so you never miss a story that leaves audiences speechless. The episode started like any other, with Steve Harvey greeting the two families and the crowd buzzing with excitement. But behind the laughter and playful banter, tension was already simmering. One family was no stranger to high emotions. A father and son duo whose relationship had clearly been complicated for years. As the game unfolded, their competitive spirits clashed in ways that no one in the studio could have anticipated. The conflict erupted during a fast-paced round of Family Feud. Steve asked a question and the son buzzed in first. "We're going with," he began, only to be interrupted by his father, shouting over him. "No, that's wrong, son. You don't know what you're talking about." The audience gasped, and murmurs spread through the studio. Steve raised his hands, trying to calm things down. "Whoa, whoa, whoa. Let's take a breath here. Okay? We don't need to start fighting over the answers." But his attempts to mediate were quickly drowned out by the escalating shouting. "I'm not letting you make a fool of me on national television," the father yelled. The son fired back, voice cracking with anger. "You always try to control everything. Why can't you let me answer once?" Steve's eyes widened, and for the first time in his hosting career, he seemed unsure of how to navigate the situation. He took a step back, rubbing his temples. Everybody, calm down. This is Family Feud. It's supposed to be fun, not a battlefield." The shouting continued, with both men refusing to lower their voices. Contestants on the other family team shifted uncomfortably, and the audience watched in stunned silence, some whispering, "This is getting intense." Steve Harvey, realizing the situation had spiraled out of control, made a decision that no one expected. He turned to the camera and said, "I can't. This isn't right. I'm going to step off the stage for a moment until we figure this out." He walked briskly toward the side of the set, leaving the audience in shocked silence. Behind him, producers scrambled to intervene, while the father and son continued shouting at each other, oblivious to the chaos around them. At that moment, viewers at home were witnessing something rare. Steve Harvey, the consummate professional, completely stunned by the intensity of raw human emotion unfolding live on television. The tension in the studio was palpable. Steve's walk-off wasn't just dramatic. It was a signal that this family's conflict had pushed the boundaries of what was acceptable in the middle of a game show. And as the cameras cut to a brief commercial, everyone knew this was a moment that would be talked about for years to come. When the cameras returned from the commercial break, the atmosphere on set was tense, almost suffocating. Steve Harvey had returned, but his usual charm and humor were replaced with a serious, almost somber tone. He looked directly at the father and son, his voice steady but firm. "All right, fellas, this is not how we handle things on this show," Steve said, his hands gesturing for calm. "I've been doing this for a long time and I've seen arguments, disagreements, even rivalries, but this is not okay. You're here to have fun, not to air out all your issues in front of millions of people." The father crossed his arms, clearly still frustrated. "He started it, Steve. He always thinks he's right." The son, equally defiant, shot back, "I just want a chance to play the game without being shouted at every time I try to answer." Steve took a deep breath, pacing slightly, trying to regain control. "I understand, both of you. I get it. Family dynamics are complicated, but this is Family Feud, not a therapy session. We can settle this without screaming at each other." He paused, letting his words sink in, then asked the son, "Listen, son, can you give me your answer calmly, without any interruptions?" The son hesitated, then finally spoke, his voice quieter this time. "Okay. We're going with spilled coffee." Steve nodded, acknowledging the answer. "All right, good. That's one answer. Now, Dad, you're gonna let him speak without cutting in." The father looked at Steve, tension still visible in his eyes, but he nodded reluctantly. "Fine. I'll let him answer. With the immediate danger of shouting subsided, Steve addressed the audience. Folks, let me tell you something. We don't take walking off lightly, but sometimes it's the only way to show that respect is non-negotiable. And right now, these two need to remember that. The game slowly resumed, but every move, every answer, was now loaded with an underlying tension. Steve kept a close eye on the father and son, ready to intervene at the first sign of another outburst. Audience members whispered to each other, clearly unsure whether they were watching a game show or witnessing a real-life family drama unfold. One contestant leaned over to another and muttered, I didn't expect Family Feud to get this intense. Steve, noticing the murmurs, smiled faintly. I know it's a little uncomfortable right now, folks, but sometimes the truth about relationships comes out in the unlikeliest places, even on a game show stage. As the round progressed, the father and son exchanged occasional side glances, their expressions softening slightly, but the tension hadn't fully dissipated. Steve, ever the professional, had to navigate every word, every reaction, making sure the game stayed fair while the family tried to regain their composure. The audience at home watched, riveted by the drama. Social media buzzed instantly, with viewers tweeting, posting, and commenting about the father-son showdown that had halted filming and forced Steve Harvey to step away. The tension on set was palpable as the next round began. Steve Harvey, ever the professional, tried to keep things moving, but the energy from the previous outburst still lingered. The father and son sat side by side, their expressions a mix of frustration and resignation. Steve turned to the son first. All right, young man, I need you to focus. I want you to answer without shouting, without any interruptions. Can you do that for me? The son swallowed hard, nodding. Yes, Steve. And you, sir? Steve addressed the father. You're gonna let him speak this time. No yelling. Got it. The father grumbled. Yeah, all right. The audience held their breath as the son leaned in to give his answer. We're going with Forgotten Anniversary. The studio erupted with whispers and some audible chuckles. Steve's eyes widened, but he didn't smile immediately. He put his hand on his forehead, as if the weight of the moment was pressing down on him. Whoa, Steve said slowly, his voice measured. Forgotten Anniversary. Now that's a problem I've personally had to deal with. I feel you, man. I really do. The father looked stunned, and then a hint of remorse flashed across his face. I didn't think it would. I wasn't trying to hurt you. The son's voice softened. I know, Dad, but it still hurts. Steve leaned forward, placing both hands on the podium. Look, this is why I had to step away earlier, because sometimes the emotions people bring with them are bigger than the game, and we've got to respect that. The game continued, but the tension had shifted. It was no longer aggressive. It was reflective, almost intimate. Steve, seeing the father beginning to understand his son's perspective, said, You see, this is more than just a game. Life throws all kinds of challenges at us, and sometimes it hits home right in front of the cameras. The audience, previously on edge, started clapping softly, sensing the sincerity in Steve's words. One contestant muttered, I've never seen him like this. It's like he's talking to a whole family, not just one on stage. Steve nodded at the observation, his voice calmer now. Sometimes, folks, the game isn't about winning. It's about learning, listening, and respecting each other. And that's what's happening right here. The father, now clearly moved, reached over and squeezed his son's shoulder. I hear you, son. I'm sorry. I shouldn't have yelled. The son smiled faintly. Thanks, Dad. Steve smiled, the tension lifting ever so slightly. That's better. That's what I like to see. Communication, understanding. That's the real win right here. Even the audience, sensing the resolution, erupted into applause. Social media reactions surged in real time, viewers commenting on the raw honesty and emotional depth that had taken over a simple Family Feud episode. The father-son duo leaned closer, sharing a quiet conversation off microphone, while Steve addressed the crowd with a final reminder. Life can hit you hard, folks. But when you listen, when you show patience and empathy, even the toughest moments can turn into lessons. The atmosphere in the studio had shifted completely. What started as a chaotic and tense confrontation had slowly transformed into a moment of reflection. Steve Harvey, known for his quick humor and sharp comebacks, now showed a side rarely seen on Family Feud: his ability to navigate raw human emotion with care. Steve stepped back from the podium and turned to the father and son. "You know, I've been on this show for a long time and I've seen a lot of arguments. But this is different. This isn't about points or prizes. This is about real life happening in front of all of us." The father, still visibly shaken, spoke quietly. "I never realized how much my words could affect him. I thought he'd just get over it." The son, still holding back tears, replied, "I know you didn't mean it, Dad, but it still hurt. A lot." Steve nodded, his face serious. "See, that's why I had to step off earlier. Because sometimes the cameras don't capture the weight of what's really going on. And people don't always get that, even in a family setting. But today we're getting it." He paused, letting the words sink in. "Now we can go back to the game. But I want you both to remember something. It's not about winning. It's about understanding. About seeing each other, hearing each other, and taking a moment to care." The son spoke up, his voice a little steadier. "I appreciate that, Steve. I really do." The father nodded, reaching for his son's hand. "I promise I'll try to do better. I want us to be closer, not just here in front of cameras, but every day." The audience, sensing the sincerity of the exchange, began to clap and cheer softly. The tension that had gripped the studio only moments before had evaporated, replaced by a collective feeling of hope and understanding. Steve's tone softened. "I think that's what Family Feud is supposed to do at times. It's fun, it's games, but it's also life. And life has these moments. Moments that remind us of what really matters." He turned to the camera, addressing viewers at home. "I know a lot of you watching have had similar experiences. Maybe it was with your parents, your kids, or someone close to you. And sometimes, it takes one loud argument, one moment of conflict, to open the door for honesty and healing." The father and son shared a long, quiet look, both acknowledging the weight of what had just been said. Steve, ever the observer, chimed in gently. "Now that we've had this talk, can we get back to the game? Let's keep the points, the laughs, but also the respect." "Agreed." Both nodded, and a sense of relief filled the room. The round continued, but with a noticeably calmer energy. Contestants and audience members alike were reminded that even in the middle of a competitive game, moments of raw honesty and human connection could take center stage. The final moments of the episode were unlike anything Family Feud had ever broadcast. The father and son, now visibly calmer, stood side by side at the podium, the tension between them replaced with a tentative understanding. Steve Harvey, who had navigated thousands of high-pressure moments on stage, watched closely, giving them the space they needed to express themselves fully. Steve leaned on the podium, his voice gentle but firm. "I want you both to know something. You didn't come here just to play a game. You came here to be seen, to be heard, and I think that's more important than any points on this board." The son looked at his father, his voice finally steady. "Dad, I just want you to know that I forgive you. I know we can fix this. I don't want this fight to define us anymore." The father's eyes welled up, and he took his son's hand. "I'm so sorry for everything, son. I've been stubborn and angry, and I didn't realize how much it was hurting you. I want to be better, starting now." Steve nodded, clearly moved by the exchange. "Now that's a moment right there. That's what life is all about. Conflict, honesty, and reconciliation. And that's what makes being on this show unpredictable. But sometimes, the unpredictability brings out the most human moments, the ones we all relate to." The audience, having witnessed the raw emotions unfold, erupted in applause. Steve took a moment to address them directly. "Y'all are seeing something real here, and you should take a moment to think about your own lives, your own families, your own relationships. How often do we let pride or frustration get in the way of what really matters?" The father added softly, I know it won't be perfect overnight, but this, right here, this is a start, and I'm committed to it. Steve smiled, a rare moment of quiet pride on his face. That's all any of us can do. Commit to trying, commit to listening, commit to caring. And sometimes, it takes a live television moment to remind us just how important that is. He turned to the contestants on the opposing team. And you all, don't think this is just about them. Take a look at your own families. Remember that these moments can happen anywhere, anytime, and sometimes the only thing that changes is the willingness to really talk and really listen. The round ended, points tallied, but no one seemed to notice the score anymore. What had started as shouting and chaos became a profound reminder of the power of communication and forgiveness. Steve Harvey, once again, had demonstrated why Family Feud isn't just a game. It's a stage for life's most unexpected and emotional truths. As the cameras cut to commercial, Steve whispered to the production crew, that one right there is why I do this show. Not for the laughs, not for the points. For moments like that." The father and son hugged as the audience cheered, leaving everyone in the studio with a sense of hope and reflection. This episode would be remembered not for the scores or the prizes, but for the honesty, the reconciliation, and the human connection that played out in front of millions of viewers. The game can always wait. The heart cannot.